Hi, Jill. Hi, Andrea. About to get started. How is everyone today? Thank you. Like the live. Hi, Karen.
Do you want me to switch that around again?
It's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
I can do it.
I'm not on the iPad, so.
Shoot, that's the fixed grid. Hold on. It's different on here than it is in here.
Hi, Karen. Ryan.
What the hell? Which one is it?
Hi, Dave. I don't know.
Try one more. There it is.
You're the one that's supposed to have the answers.
So, it's different on through the moderator settings, you know? But I got it.
How you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
How you feeling?
I'm still not feeling that great, but I took medication, so we're good.
Hi, sarcastic sister. How are you? So today we're just doing it like a quick Q&A, probably be an hour. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, Robert Rapier will be on. I haven't had a lot of prep time today. I've been very busy. YouTube and TikTok, we have a goal, and please give the moderator taking your questions. Not super caught up on the events of the day, but oil's relatively flat. Natural gas prices kind of cratered somewhat today, but just a sell off. Yeah. Is gas going down anytime soon? Not really. No. That's not a thing. I mean, it may drop a penny or two over the coming days, but it's going up. It's going up. Gas is going up. Yeah. We're going into springtime. So. Oh, yeah. No, we're not going to see any price spikes of gasoline. Not, I mean, unless something unforeseen happens. No. Do I think you'll hit 450 for gas? Not unless you live in California. Yeah, I don't think you're not going to hit 450 for gas unless you live in California. And then you're already there, so. Then you're already there. I got you, Roman. What is meant by New York Harbor spot price? Exactly what it says, right? So there's different hubs and places where commodities are traded and exchanged. Um, I'm guessing that's natural gas. There's a lot of natural gas hubs. Trump is calling for the project for the Keystone XL to restart. What are the chances TC Energy will restart the project? Zero, because TC Energy doesn't exist anymore. Um, and the company that spun off from TC Energy, Southbow, they've already said no as well. They have no interest in it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Thank you for the gifts. A simple explanation as to why California gas is so expensive, because they have their own gas. They don't use the same gas the rest of the country uses, which means they have to make their own gas in the state, and the refiners in the state are leaving left and right due to a burdensome regulatory environment. And then they tax everything to death, and so they're short on supply, they're high on demand. Middle Eastern crude oil is their number one import, and gas prices are high. I mean, uh, gas prices are high because the state of California made them high. How does Trump canceling the deal with Venezuela impact us? It doesn't really. It doesn't. Can you list some of your favorite resources for getting data on energy markets? Market Watch, McKinsey Wood, EIA. Not just markets, but what's that other app I have? Seeking Alpha. Will the EV rebate go away? I believe it will. I believe it will, yes. Greetings, California. Canada's not going to turn off the tap. That's not a thing. They're not. Trump is reversing electric cars. All right. Thank you for the gifts. Brian, welcome. How are you? Thank you so much for helping me meet my life goal. I really appreciate that. Tax on tips and Social Security. You know, um, I would suggest if you want to know about tax on tips and Social Security, go read the bill. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I've seen 100 posts where it says they passed no tax on tips and Social Security and all this, and then I've seen another 100 posts where it says they didn't. And so I haven't read the bill yet. So I can't confirm or deny, and I don't believe anybody on the internet. So if you want to know, go read the bill because I haven't had a chance to yet. Or I would say, I'm not going to say anything based on something someone else has said on the internet. That's not how I operate. So I'll just say I don't know because I don't know. And yeah, yeah. I mean, I just don't know. when I when I say, no offense, but when I say I don't believe anybody on the internet, like that's what I mean. I don't. I would believe Jill, but yeah.
That's because I will not say it if I don't know.
I know. That's why I would believe you. But I know you, so that's different. Guys, thank you so much for helping me hit my live goal again. I really appreciate that. You have stopped fact checking me? Well, I mean, okay.
I fact check him every day so that I can catch him in something that he did or said wrong, and I could be like, I told you. But anyway, yeah, always fact check him so you can catch him.
Do you have a T-shirt with merch saying that's not a thing? I do. Well, they're not for sale yet, but they're coming. John Scott, who are you talking to? How much of a decrease in demand of Canadian oil do I expect when the tariffs kick in? None. I don't expect any decrease in demand. Um, yeah, none.
I was giving you a chance to reply to him, and then he got a timeout.
John?
Hmm.
Who's he talking to?
I would assume you.
Oh, poor John. Doesn't even have anywhere on the internet to go where people like him. That must be terrible.
If he wants to come back and be nice, I will give him that one more chance. But
He won't be nice. He doesn't have the ability.
speaking for good.
He didn't come here to be nice. He come here to run his cock holster. That's what he does.
This is why I unmuted him. And he can hear it.
I don't care what he can hear. He
I
probably
know,
sits
but
around watching Fox News all day and thinks he has the whole world figured out. And, you know.
I know you don't care. That's why I did it the way I did it.
Mr. Global wondering who you believe more regarding peak oil demand. IEA states 2030, OPEC states 2050. Would the demand slowly taper off or drop like a rock? I don't believe either one of them. I don't believe either one of them. And I'll tell you why. The IEA is a huge proponent of green energy. Now keep in mind, the IEA is not the EIA, right? The IEA is an international organization. So we talk a lot about the EIA, but sometimes when I talk about the IEA, people get that confused, right? And OPEC is obviously a huge pro-oil organization. So you have a big green organization and you have a big oil organization. So I don't believe either one of them. I don't believe either one of them. And if it's probably right between what each of them are saying, but it will not, when we do hit peak oil, it won't drop like a rock. It'll taper off over a period of decades. I never believe anything OPEC says. That's okay. Rule of thumb: never believe anything OPEC says. In addition to that, you really never want to believe anything the IEA says, because I think Bob runs the IEA. They've never been right about anything. The thing about OPEC, you have to understand, OPEC can just come out and make some like arbitrary announcement and, make oil jump by $2 a barrel for 2 days. And that's $100 million in their pocket. $2 for 2 days is like $100 million for OPEC. So they're far too incentivized and motivated to just say random shit to cause prices to go up. If you could just say something and make $100 million, would you do it? Yeah, right? Of course you would. So you can't take anything they say. Like, you just can't. I've got to look at something. Mr. Global, I was wondering about the news today regarding BP. BP, yeah. BP, that's quite a story. So BP has announced that they're going to increase their investments in oil and gas by $10 billion, and decrease their investments in renewables, I think by another $5 billion, um, because they tried the whole green energy thing, and I've talked about this before. Um, as soon as it starts hurting the stock price, something's going to have to change, and I kind of predicted this when they started doing it. But it's the reason I laughed about it is because BP, it doesn't stand for British Petroleum anymore. Now it stands for Beyond Petroleum. Beyond Petroleum, because they're moving beyond petroleum until now. So my question is BP going to change what their name means now? Are they sticking with Beyond Petroleum? Because they're getting their investments in things that are beyond petroleum, and they're pumping 10 billion back into oil and gas. So yeah, that came out yesterday. Langford was talking energy on the floor today. I hope you break it down in a video. I'll have to watch that. He was probably wrong. Thank you for the question, Ryan. $2 gas means U.S. producers go bankrupt, period. I have 300 U.S. employees in the Gulf of Mexico. Hell's bells, they don't care. They don't care if the entire oil and gas industry in the United States collapses, as long as they get $2 gas. And then, 6 months after it happens, they'll start posting memes on the internet. When oil prices skyrocket later, this is what they always do. They don't care. And then later, when oil prices skyrocket, because we've handed complete control of our energy consumption to countries that don't like us, later when oil prices skyrocket, they'll put memes all over the internet saying, "We only buy American oil," as if they give two fucks where their oil comes from. The only thing they care about is $2. They don't care if it comes from Saudi Arabia or Russia. They don't care. They only care when it's $4 where it comes from. When it's $2, they don't care where it comes from. When it's $4, they care, right? But the problem is, thank you so much, Captain Fantastic, for the $2 super chat. BP will rename it back to petroleum. Probably. I mean, that sounds like a good name. It would be fitting. But no, I've literally had conversations with people who have said, I don't care where my gas comes from. I want $2 gas. But then when it's expensive again, then they care where it comes from. They don't like enriching foreign countries, but they don't mind bankrupting U.S. companies. It's After the OPEC 2020 deal, when gas prices started to skyrocket, there was memes all over the internet. American oil from American soil. Because gas was expensive again. Because gas was expensive again. As an oil executive, how did you agree with Jennifer Granholm? I don't remember agreeing with much of anything Jennifer Granholm said. if you could be more specific. Thank you, Hayward Farms. Thoughts on the Chevron Venezuela oil deal? You know, Chevron is pushing hard for Venezuela because they have pumped billions of dollars into that country. I I don't know what's going to happen there, but that is if Chevron hadn't pumped billions of dollars into Venezuela, we'd probably never freaking hear about Venezuela again. To be honest, Chevron is driving all of that. As a follow-up question to peak oil, if closer to the truth is somewhere in the middle, is it still worth investing in massive infrastructure projects? Seems like there's a real risk for getting return on investments. So the problem, you know, investing in massive infrastructure projects depends on where you're at, right? It depends on where you're at. So investing in massive infrastructure projects, fossil fuels, in the United States may not be a good idea, right? But it may be a great idea in China or India, right? Especially India. If I was going to build something, I would build it in India, because in 10 years they're going to have an amazing modern economy that's just, you know, and they're going to be heavily dependent on the fossil fuels. They just are. But it's really where you're at as far as, you know, big, massive infrastructure projects. You know, even just take out the EVs, you know, fuel demand in the United States is not likely to rise much at all. It's going to probably stay about where it is. And with so many things being electrified in the future, you know, you could make a case that diesel demand will likely, you know, hit some point where it's no longer growing. So you couldn't give me a refinery in the United States. You could not give me a refinery in the United States. Well, you might be able to give it to me. I certainly wouldn't pay for it, is what I'm saying. And that's, you know, that's the thing. We're not gonna. Fossil fuel companies are going. You know, they're starting to see there's better places to park their money, right? I was in Wilmington, North Carolina, and Sheetz had 87 gas for $2.65 and 88 for $2.44. Could you explain why they would do that? The 87 was probably gas, was probably ethanol free, and the 88 was probably E10 or E15. Yeah, the 88 likely had ethanol in it, and the 87 likely did not. That's typically the only reason 88 would be more expensive than 87 if it has ethanol in it. I don't think I've ever seen 88 more expensive than 87 without it being like E10 or E15. So that must be it. Do you expect gas to go up or down under Trump with less or more foreign dependency? I honestly expect gas prices to stay about the same. If they are lower, it won't be enough to, you know, make a huge difference. If they're higher, it won't be enough to make a huge difference. I think right now they basically kind of stay in the same pattern that they've been in for the last, 18 months or so. They've been slowly creeping down for about 18 months. Well, longer than that actually. I don't expect gas prices to move at all much, right? I certainly don't expect to see gas prices to be anywhere close they were as they were under his last administration, unless we have some type of massive recession, economic collapse, or like just something bad's going to have to happen for us to achieve those gas prices again. It's a different market than it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. It's a completely different market. What are some decisions consumers can make to improve the energy efficiency of their homes? If you mean on, you know, things they can invest in, or, insulation, windows, doors, you know, any way you can stop hot or cold air from coming in your house, whether it's weather stripping things or completely replacing things or adding insulation or, newer, more efficient appliances are probably the least bang for your buck. A lot of people will go out and buy new appliances that are more energy efficient. If your home itself, right, isn't really efficient, it doesn't matter what you put inside of it. It doesn't matter, right? So focus on the property itself, the structure itself. That's where your focus should be. Once you have the property itself, the structure itself, pretty much airtight, right? Then your old crap works just fine. I would not recommend spending money on heat and air units, on appliances. That's not what really matters. What really matters is the house itself. Focus on that. Anything you can do. The AP just reported that Trump informed all government agencies to expect massive job cuts. Yeah. If we don't need Canadian oil, why do we need the Keystone XL? Exactly. I don't need anything. I think I read somewhere someone said that sort of one of the reasons that they believed that this sudden push for the XL came out was because Canada started talking about an east-west pipeline through Canada, and he wanted to change the conversation. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But yeah, don't ever put money anywhere that someone with my name told you to. What's up, Jill?
I was just going to address that. Um, there's a lot of fake Mr. Globals out there, and just block and report. If they send you a message, report it.
How did the USA lose from the OPEC 2020 deal? Well, when you say USA, um, it depends on who you're talking about. So the people lost, right? The people paid $5 a gallon for gas. The people lost. The companies made a fortune. The companies made a fortune. The U.S. Treasury made a fortune. Everybody made a fortune except the people, right? And so since you use the word USA, to me that's the people and not the corporations or the government. And the people, basically, and it's the easiest way to say it is OPEC 2020 caused literally hundreds of billions of dollars to flow from the people, right? From the working class people to the wealthy. That's what the OPEC 2020 did. That's what it did. You're paying $5 for gas. Oil companies are making record profits. That's because of every one of those $5 bills you gave them. And look, the oil companies were handed a gift. You know, it they were not price gouging you. This was a result of the market that Donald Trump created with the OPEC 2020 deal. It caused all of this. So they were beneficiaries of it, right? But they didn't do it. Donald Trump did it. MBS did it. Vladimir Putin did it. But yeah, to me, that hurts the U.S. When you take hundreds of billions of dollars away from the people and push it to big corporations and the government itself. That's how it hurt the USA. Lori says the Keystone XL changed direction. If they had followed the same line, it would have been approved. And I agree with that. If they would have just twinned the original Keystone pipeline, if they would have just ran the new one right next to the old one and twinned it, just like Canada did with Trans Mountain, it would be up and running today. It would be up and running today. And they tried, they tried to take a huge shortcut through a bunch of native lands, and they tried to save as much money as possible. They tried to do it cheap, and it ended up costing them billions and billions of dollars, and they ended up with no pipeline. So, yeah, they absolutely should have just twinned it from Jump Street, and that would have been it. That would have been it. My electric went up over $100 last month. All delivery charges. Yeah, that's happening to a lot of people. Utility companies are hitting people with delivery charges really bad. Can you explain the difference between OPEC and OPEC Plus and how Russia involves itself with OPEC? So OPEC Plus are nations basically that have joined OPEC, but they're not founding members, they're not founding states, and they are not contractually obligated, right, to follow all of OPEC's rules. Basically, OPEC got a bunch of countries to add, and a lot of these countries wanted to partner with OPEC, but they didn't want to be bound by all of the agreements and quotas and all of that. Now, they can choose to follow the agreements and quotas if it's in their best interest, but they're not legally obligated to do so. So all of the OPEC plus nations, they all meet with each other, they coordinate with each other, they plan their business with each other, but they're not obligated. With that being said, most of them, and with Russia being the largest one, most of them do fall in line with what the OPEC nations come up with as far as production levels and all that. So that's basically what OPEC Plus is. Vladimir Putin basically took MBS under his wing because he saw that MBS was infatuated with him or whatever, right? And he weaseled his way in there. And now he has his thumb on the pulse of OPEC, who controls most of the world's oil. And I've said from the beginning that the fact that OPEC Plus exists and the fact that Russia is a part of OPEC Plus, and so by proxy a part of OPEC, that's not a good thing for anybody, for Russia to be a part of that. That's not. Thank you, Lori. You learned that from me. Thank you. My natural gas bill came today, $218 for 31 days. Hey, that's not that bad. I get messages every day, people paying $1,000, $1,200, $1,400. Like, and the next round of gas bills that are coming, I'm just, anxious to see the numbers I'm going to hear in the next 10 days to 2 weeks when the gas bills from that huge cold spell we had hit. Spray and foam, absolutely.
My house is pretty well insulated, so it stays warm. My heat, I never usually turn it up past 72, if that. Usually 70, but I need new windows, so I have them heavy curtains on there. It keeps the cold out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that helps.
Oh, there's something else I want to talk about. So Donald Trump has come out, and he wants the Constitution pipeline to be built. Now, if you're not familiar with the Constitution pipeline, it was originally to be built by Williams, and it was going to go from northeast Pennsylvania up into New York, and it was going to intersect into the Iroquois pipeline. And Donald Trump is telling everyone that if we get this pipeline built, that people in New York are going to save 70% on their bills. That's not a thing. That's not even a possibility. As a matter of fact, in all probability, their bills will go up if that pipeline is put in from northeastern PA up into New York. And that is because the gas that comes through the Iroquois pipeline down into New York is a Canadian pipeline. And that's why Donald Trump wants a different pipeline, right? Because it's a Canadian pipeline. But here's the thing. Power from that pipeline, generated power from that gas in that pipeline from Canada, is half the price of the gas that will be coming from Pennsylvania to New York. It is half the price. So I don't understand how you replace one thing with another thing that costs twice as much and saves 70%. That doesn't happen. That's not a thing. That doesn't happen, right? So you may hear a lot about this in the coming weeks. The Constitution pipeline. It's and I'm not opposed to the pipeline. I'm just saying it's not going to save anybody any money. No pipeline ever saved anybody any money. That's not a thing that's ever happened. But that's the thing they always tell you to sell it to you, is that it will save you money. But it doesn't. Never has, never will. It'll save the pipeline company money in logistics and transportation charges. It's not going to save you a penny. It's not going to save you a penny.
Did you say it's running through Pennsylvania?
It starts in northeast Pennsylvania, or it's supposed to. It doesn't exist. And run into New York.
Why aren't they calling it the Keystone?
They're calling it the Constitution pipeline.
No, it should be called the Keystone.
Doge cut the LIEAP program, so I'm not sure what people who get that assistance for utility bills will do once the churches run out of money to help them. I don't either. I saw a video. I think it was yesterday. I saw a video. This lady went to this place to get assistance with her utility bills, and I think she waited for like 6 hours because there were so many people in there. That right there, those are oil and gas subsidies. helping all those people pay their utility bills are oil and gas subsidies. That's how they're counted in the budget. Yoga says, put freedom or constitution on anything and its supporters will flock to it. Yeah. I wish we could cut all trade with the USA. Don't deserve anything from us, treating us like shit. Hi, Pap. How are you? Yes, Pennsylvania is the Keystone State. That's why this Keystone thing is sort of a running joke. This freaking thing. I hate this. I agree with you 100%, Michelle. I agree with you 100%. It it makes no sense to me how you go after a country, right? You talk about taking over their country. You talk about annexing their country. You talk about you threaten them all the time, and then you just turn around and you're like, hey, I need you to build a pipeline for me. Like, but he's a troll. Okay, the president's a troll. That's what he does. You know. Yeah, I know it's about Trump. Yeah, you don't have to apologize to me. Thank you so much for helping me reach my life goal. You know what's messed up about this, Jill? It doesn't just let you restart your original life goal. It makes you redo the whole thing.
Yes. It used to let you restart the same one.
As long as Canada doesn't cut off the poutine supply, I'm good, says Craig.
Everybody knew what that meant in Pennsylvania. Well, the Pittsburgh area anyway.
Can we get a shout out for Squeaky Cheese? Is that a person or is that cheese?
That's cheese, remember? We talked about this once before, I believe.
My memory is like failing.
Yeah.
I need some ginkgo biloba or something. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm losing shit every day. I put something down. I can't find it for a month. And I find it like right there in front of me. Like, it was right here. I'm just like, how did I lose that? Like, oh man. Yes, the cheese curds. Finish the maple syrup XL. I remember now. I remember the squeaky cheese. I just needed a little boost of reminder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should you short oil? No, I would not short oil. But the reason I wouldn't do it is because that is an unbelievably risky play, and that's just too much risk. I don't. I'm not willing to risk that. I'm not really willing to have that much risk in things I invest in. So I would never short oil because some asshole on the other side of the world makes some decision in the middle of the night to do one thing and you lose your ass, right? Um, every every indicator can say oil is going to go down. I'm not shorting oil. There's any one thing can happen anywhere in the world, and you just lost your ass. I'm not. Tesla stock is still going down $290.95. Um, I don't know what Tesla stock used to be. I don't know that I've ever looked at Tesla stock in my life. I feel like it was probably a lot higher than that since, Bill has all of these laughing emojis. Thank you so much for the necklace. Scott says he sold Tesla at $475. So, yeah. Yeah, Bob is keeping Mr. G in business. That's for sure. Well, I'm putting 3% of my portfolio into short ETNs and jumping out after 2% gains. I mean, that's perfectly fine. What I'm telling you is I'm not the person to ask that question because I don't do that. Like, I don't short oil. And, you know, I'm telling you, you know more about that than I do. So you shouldn't be asking me for advice. That I'm just telling you that. Um, yeah, I'm, you know, the last thing I would want to do is give anybody advice that would cost them money, and that's why I'm so careful about giving people investment advice. Rusty says to short Budweiser. So there you go. Lost half of its value. Is that Tesla? Tesla's lost half of its value. So that means, I can only assume that means that Musk has lost a great deal of his net worth. Do I need to reset my goal again?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, resetting my goal again. Some tiny dinies. I got a new tiny diny goal.
The tiny dinies are the best.
The petition in Canada to take away Elon's citizenship has over 300,000 signatures. Wow. Thank you guys so much for the gifts. I appreciate that. Thank you, Scott. Marjorie Taylor Greene bought a lot of Tesla stock. Warren Buffett just invested in 5 Japanese corporations. uh, Yeah, you know, you should run for Congress just to get rich because you go buy some stock, everybody sees it, and then they go buy it, right? And then you sell it. Like the Stock Act, which I did a video on a while back, which was meant to stop this stuff, is actually making it worse. And that's 100% true. Brian says buy T bills, a free 4.5%, keeps your money safe for the next 4 years. What will the effect of the Kitimat LNG terminal have on the price of natural gas? So it won't have a much of an effect on the price of natural gas in the lower 48. It won't have much of an effect in the lower 48. And the way that deal is structured, all of the natural gas that's going to come down that pipeline has to first serve the people of Alaska before any excess can be sold as LNG on the global market. I think it'll be a really good thing for people that live in Alaska. But it's not going to have much of an impact at all on gas prices, natural gas prices in the lower 48. It's just not. And I know a lot of people are buying natural gas, and I've told people as early as yesterday, you might want to wait. I think the entry is going to be cheaper if you wait until spring. I think your entry is going to be cheaper if you wait until spring. Mild temperatures drive down gas prices, natural gas. Um, and I said that yesterday, and today natural gas is down. So might want to wait a couple of weeks at least. What is the longest distance a pipeline can be before it becomes inefficient to use? Wow, I've never thought about that question. It depends on what's in it, um, and how much product you have to move through it. Obviously, the longer it is, the more booster stations you need. So as long as you have enough booster stations along the route, the pipeline could go all the way around the world, literally. As long as you have, it's all about the booster stations that continue to push stuff further down the line, right? That's what it's all about. It's not really about the pipeline. A pipeline is really a series of pipelines that is bolted together by boosters that you push to one point, it gets there, and then it gets pushed to another point, and then another point. So it's not so much the pipeline as it is the booster stations. And as long as you have enough boosters, you're fine. The only way to get to Prudhoe Bay is on the ice roads. Yep. How did I get into the oil and gas business? Where I grew up, this was the only thing anybody did. This was the predominant industry where I live, and you could go to work with little or no education and do well, and so that's what I did. Can a person invest in local oil production with $2,000 or $3,000 to start? Um, you can, and you absolutely can. And some oil companies have uh, deals, uh, public deals, where people are literally able to invest in some of their projects. I'm not talking about the stuff you see on the internet, okay? I'm not talking about all the ads, the clickbait crap you see on the internet to invest in oil projects. I'm not talking about that. This stuff doesn't make it to the internet because it's actual, real, established, profitable oil companies. And these programs are released out to financial institutions and financial advisors. And if you don't have a financial advisor, just call one. Or if you do have one, call them and say, "Hey, I want to invest in some oil production," and they should have everything you need to make an investment. I don't know if two or $3,000 will cut it. Usually, the minimum investments are more than that, but there may be some programs there may be something out there that you can put $2,000 or $3,000 in. Typically, want at least $5,000 to $10,000. Sometimes 25,000, 50,000. It just depends on the program. Um, but never invest in something you got on the internet. Never invest in oil from someone that is soliciting you on the internet. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. That's if those people were any good at what they did, they wouldn't need your money. Okay? If they were any good, they wouldn't need your money, and they would want to keep all of that equity for themselves. And the fact of the matter is, they can't finance these operations. That's why they're trying to scam people out of money on the internet. But go to a financial advisor. If there's some oil companies in your area that are offering some buy-ins on some projects, they should know about it. And if they don't, they probably can point you in the direction of one that does know about it. That's how I would approach that. I do not do anything from an online solicitation. Do you know of any reputable companies that people invest in without giving financial advice to buy? One of the best companies, at least in Oklahoma, to invest with, if oil and gas projects, is a company called Mewburn, and their name is on the Petroleum Engineering School at the University of Oklahoma. They're very successful in Oklahoma, very good company, and they often have programs that a financial advisor can point you towards, um, that allows people to participate in their projects. And it's not something that they advertise, right? And the good companies don't advertise it. The good companies don't have to advertise it, because the type of people they want are the type of people that use financial advisors, right? You're not going to see Mewburn on the internet on Facebook trying to get you to click a link. That's not a thing, right? It's not a thing. Mewburn, MEWBURN. Bourne. Man, did I hit my live goal again? Wow. Okay.
Donuts.
What?
Donuts.
Donuts.
That's what
Did you
you
get
said.
that? Do what?
That's what you set your goal as, donuts.
Yeah, my goal.
Your goal.
My goal.
Yes. Don't do it.
I'm not. Did you get that, Shishi? Jill, did you take some Alka-Seltzer?
I did. I did. I took it earlier.
And it works?
Yeah, it works.
I've never taken it for that. So
Well, it's like flu-like symptoms from the earache.
ah. I've heard rumors that Canada sells crude oil to the US at below market value. Is that true? No. That is absolutely not true, and there's people saying it all over the internet. The market value of Canadian oil is cheap. They're paying market value. They're not paying below market value. It's cheap on the market. That's why they're buying it. It's not at all below market value. A lot of people think that because they hear people talk um, about commodity trades, energy commodity trades, and they hear terms like discount, and they think that means something that it doesn't mean. They think that means it's like getting a coupon at the grocery store. No, that's not what it means. A discount in this business is not like a discount on a retail item. It's not like it's not the same thing. So no, it's not. Apple juice with your donuts. I don't know about that. I don't like apple juice. Jill, do you like apple juice?
No, I can't stand apple juice.
It is discounted $15 per barrel based on the world market. Is it not? No, it's not. The amount it's discounted it changes with every other type of oil in every other market, right? So if today WTI is $69 and WCS is $60, then it's a $9 discount to WCS. That doesn't mean to WTI. That doesn't mean WCS is worth $69 but being sold for 60. That just means it sells for that much cheaper than WTI. Um, the discount that it sells for compared to Brent would be more, right? So if Brent was 74 and WCS was 60, then it would trade at a $14 discount to Brent. But you're not buying Brent, you're buying WCS. And the market price of WCS is the market price. So nobody's buying anything below market price. It's just the word discount is a term to use to compare the price of one oil to the price of another oil. So WTI trades at a discount to Brent because it's cheaper. But that doesn't mean that people are buying WTI below market value. It just means it's cheaper than another oil, right? That's all it means. That is all it means. There isn't people buying Canadian oil cheaper than what it's worth. People are buying Canadian oil for exactly what it's worth based on the market that it exists in. And the reason that WCS is worth what it's worth is because of Canadian policies. It is a direct cause of the policies of the country of Canada. It's not anybody's fault but Canada's. You cannot blame the fact that Canada has completely failed at making their products available to the global market on anybody but Canada, right? If Canada could sell their oil to anybody in the world, it would likely be $8-9 a barrel more, because you would have more people bidding on it. So the reason Canadian oil is cheap is because of Canada. It's not because of the United States. It's not because of Europe. It's not because of China. It's because of Canada. It's their fault. It's kind of like, gas prices in California. It's not the fault of the oil companies. It's not the fault of the refiners. It's the fault of the government of California. It is their policies that have caused gas to be $4.85 a gallon in the wintertime in California. That is the California's state government's fault. The price of Canadian oil is the fault of the Canadian government. So, you can be upset that people buy your product at the price they do, but the reason it's the price it is because of your government. I mean, period, right? It's not on sale. There's not a coupon, right? That's what it's worth. That's what it's worth. So, that's the deal. And people in Canada get very upset with me when I tell them that. People love to hear the truth until they don't like the truth they don't like. But that's the truth, That's just how it is. It's not my fault, Don't shoot the messenger. That's how it is. It's not a fault, it's a result. It's a fault. It is a fault. Can you not even accept the word fault? If you're blaming other people for something that is occurring due to the policies of your country, like if it's the result of someone else's actions, it's a fault. But if it's the result of my actions, it's not a fault. It is a fault. If it's a problem with your government, if the Canadian government is upset that their oil is $60, right? Whose fault is that? It's not a fault, it's a result. People really change their language when they disagree. It is a fault. It is a fault. If people in Canada were perfectly happy with getting $60, if the Canadian government was perfectly happy, if Canadian oil companies were perfectly happy, then it would be a result, not a fault. But nobody's happy, so it's a fault, right? So Donald Trump doing the deal with OPEC to make our gas go higher wasn't the gas and oil company, but Trump. Yes, exactly. Oil companies don't get to set the prices for what they sell. They're like farmers, okay? A farmer grows a bunch of corn, and whatever it's worth on the day he sells it, that's what he gets for it. It's the exact same thing with oil. Oil companies get whatever the market will bear for their product. They don't set the price for it. They put it out on the market, and it fetches whatever it fetches. When I sell a load of oil, I have no idea what I'm selling it for until a month after I've sold it. I have no idea what I sell my oil for until about a month after I sold it. And that is because the price I get for my oil is a 30-day rolling average, 15 days before I sell it, 15 days after I sell it. I get a rolling average over that 30-day period, and then they send me a check. That's when I find out how much I sold my oil for. I have no control over how much I sell my oil for. So, the Trump deal with OPEC drastically reduced the supply of oil all over the world. It was a 10% production cut. And when you drastically reduce supply of a commodity, the price of it goes up, right? It's like eighth grade. This stuff we learned in eighth grade, right? Except for Donald Trump. Apparently, Donald Trump didn't learn this, but we learned this like in eighth grade, I think. But yeah, that's what caused it. If it's sold on a rolling average, why does the cost go up and down hourly? That's because people are buying and selling contracts by the minute. It's basically just like a stock, right? It's basically just like a stock. It's just it is a stock in essence. Um, it's not an asset, right? But the reason oil companies like mine get paid on a 30-day rolling average is because if oil companies were paid like a spot price for their oil and they had a ton of oil to sell and they thought, I'm going to hold on to this oil for a week because I think it's going to be worth a dollar more, you can create supply shortages all over the country. That's why your oil is sold on a 30-day rolling average to prevent companies from hoarding their product and holding it back off the market to try to capture another dollar for it in a week or in 2 weeks. So it's just sold on a rolling average, and that's to prevent people from holding back oil, waiting for higher prices, and to prevent people from dumping oil when high prices come and having a whole bunch of oil dumped onto the market at once, and it would crash the market, right? That's why it's sold on a 30-day rolling average. It's to prevent people trying to manipulate the market with their products. Halfway to my goal. Isn't Canada's oil nasty tar sands? Does it need a ton of expensive refining? Not when we receive it. We do not receive tar sands in the United States. They don't send us that. Um, their oil goes through an upgrader, right? It goes through an upgrading process. So what they are sending us is something that has essentially been partially refined already. You can't stick tar sands in a pipeline; it doesn't flow. It's tar sands, right? So you have to make it capable of flow, basically, right? You have to remove as many impurities out of it as you can. So it goes through an upgrading process, and it's essentially like Syncrude is what they're sending us, like a synthetic crude. And so we don't get tar sands in the United States. That is taken care of before it's put in the pipeline. And another thing about the Keystone XL pipeline, because this is going to be apparently a new conversation, because I haven't spent enough years of my life talking about this fucking pipeline. Um, the Keystone XL will do nothing for gas prices in the United States, okay? It will not change anything, right? It will not change anything regarding gas prices. That is not the purpose of the Keystone XL, and it won't do it anyway. And I have a report, the State Department, December of 2019, right? Donald Trump's own State Department. They put out like it's like a 486 page report on the Keystone XL. All of the environmental considerations, right? All of the environmental impacts. This is a massive report, like tons of testimony, tons of letters from different organizations giving their opinions. But one thing that is expressed explicitly in the State Department report that was put out by Donald Trump's State Department is that the Keystone XL would have no impact on gas prices in the United States. That's in Donald Trump's own report. It would have no impact on gas prices. Because it won't. It's someone is going to save money. Who's going to save money? The people selling the oil. You know, they will get to transport their product cheaper. That doesn't make it cheaper for you. That puts more money in their pocket, not your pocket. It's a commodity. It's not a retail item. They're not going to say, oh, well, since we get to put our oil in a pipeline, we're going to discount it below market price? No, that's not a thing, right? Not a thing, right? And I've made the argument that opening the Keystone XL could actually raise gas prices. It could actually raise gas prices. Because the more you make that oil available to the global market, the more expensive it's going to be. That was the purpose of the Keystone XL. That's the purpose of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. If Canada decides to do like an east-west route, or out to the east coast of Canada, that would make their oil more expensive. And when you start making that product more expensive, do we use less of it then? Because if we do use less of it, then that could actually put upward pressure on gas prices. Donald Trump delayed the tariffs again. I think at this point, it's safe to say that, the tariffs have never really been a thing, right? I've been telling people ever since this started, like, don't worry about the tariffs. We've been through this before, right? He's trying to get something he wants that will make his voters happy. It's not about need. It's about, Are you serious? Don't worry about the tariffs. Yes, I'm serious, because we have very short memories in this country. Every single thing that is happening now with tariffs happened in 2017 when Donald Trump took office. He is following the exact same playbook he did in 2017, and we just have short memories, right? We went through all of this in 2017. Every bit of it. Every bit of it. So this whole conversation about tariffs will either drag out until they go away, or they'll get implemented for a very short period of time and then go away. But, in 2017, when this was going on, we weren't talking about Canada shutting off oil to the United States. We weren't having all of these ridiculous conversations we're having today. You know what I mean? Like, we've been through this. We have a lot of things to worry about. I'm telling you, these tariffs are not one of them. I'm just telling you, they're not. We have a lot of things to worry about, and these tariffs are the least of our problems. They just are. But I mean, feel free. Feel free to worry yourself about to death about them if you want. Like, I don't care, but I'm just telling you. Yeah, I would be more concerned with my utility bills than I would with, a tariff on Canadian oil. That's something that's real and tangible that's affecting people across the United States. You have Tammy right here. Her electric bill is $800, even though she used less power than last month. And this is, you know, one thing a lot of people have figured out about me, and some people still haven't, is when I tell you that there's a problem, then there's a fucking problem, right? Because the last thing I ever want to do is scare people or be alarmist about anything, right? I'm not one of these people that are hyperbolic and try to get clicks and views by scaring the shit out of people and telling you, doom and gloom is coming. That's not how I roll. So if I tell you there is a problem and I'm talking about utility bills, it's because there is a serious problem. And every day people like Tammy are saying yes. This is a serious problem, right? I wouldn't say something was a problem unless it was, a problem. And because that's just how I am, right? I don't make up shit. I don't overhype stuff. And I think it's important that people trust the people they listen to. So when I say something is a problem, it's a problem, and it's something I've verified a dozen fucking times to ensure that it's a problem. Because the last thing I want to do is say, "Hey, this is coming," and then nothing happened, right? Like, so it's when I say it's a problem, it's a straight up problem. Went from 4 cents per kilowatt hour to 12 cents per kilowatt hour in 2 months. Wow. So was that? So they didn't hammer you on delivery charges. They actually hammered you on your supply charges, on your rate. Thank you, Patrick Edward. To me, so people will call this price gouging, but by definition, it's not really price gouging. It's more price fixing than it is price gouging. So price gouging is when someone hits you over the head for the price of something during an emergency. Like they take advantage of an emergency to charge you more for something. There's no emergency going on other than in Donald Trump's head. There's an energy emergency going on in Donald Trump's head, and that could certainly be playing a role in these utility bill prices, right? Because if there's an emergency, can you then justify charging people more? But this thing with utility bills, this is everyone's going to call it price gouging, and that's fine. But by definition, it would be more. I think it would be more price fixing than price gouging, and which is even worse. Which is even worse. But we just like the term price gouging, so uh, it's definitely not warranted. What people are paying for utility bills is definitely not warranted, and it's I believe it's illegal. I believe a lot of it is illegal, and they've probably found some loophole or some way. But I've been talking about this stuff for a long time. They will find a way, right? Why does the government subsidize oil companies? So every industry in this country gets these subsidies that people are so upset about. And there's this notion that oil companies just are getting checks from the government. That's not a thing. That's not true at all. That's not a thing. They're calling their tax deductions for operating their businesses, they're calling them subsidies. The vast majority of these subsidies are actually home heating assistance. It's, you know, taxpayers are helping people pay their utility bills. That's like over 80% of all of the oil and gas subsidies that people talk about is home heating assistance. Home heating assistance. Um, 80 Over 85% of all energy subsidies in the United States, over 85% of all energy subsidies in the United States goes to wind and solar. And they produce what, 20% of the power, and they get 85% of the subsidies? The other 15% is divided up between oil and gas, coal, and nuclear. They share in the other 15%. 85% goes to renewable energy, basically wind and solar, and they produce 20% of the power. About roughly $10 for every dollar in subsidies or tax deductions that the oil and gas industry gets, $10 is returned to the U.S. Treasury. So basically, the U.S. Treasury is 10xing their subsidies to oil and gas every year. More money is generated and returned to the U.S. Treasury through oil and gas subsidies than any other industry. There is no industry that 10x's their subsidies back to the U.S. Treasury. That's not a thing. That's only a thing in the oil and gas industry. Right? We don't know how much money is returned to the U.S. Treasury from clean tax credits or production tax credits that go to the renewable energy industry. We don't know that, but you can't get those numbers. You can't get those numbers. That's right, Brian. You know, in my town, this city, years back, they annexed a big chunk of land. I can't remember how much it was. A few thousand acres. And, you know, they annexed that. They absorbed it, bought it, right? They bought it. And then they said, any company that wants to come into our town and open up shop in this new area, this new industrial area we're developing, if you come to town, right, and you open a business, and you stay for 5 years, we'll give you the land. We'll give you the land, and you get to keep it for free if you open a business and stay here 5 years. That's a massive subsidy, right? And it brought a bunch of industry into our town, right? It's good for the people. You should never cut off your nose to spite your face, and that's what that's what a lot of Americans want to do when it comes to subsidies, because they don't realize that our country is competing against every other country in the world, right? Businesses compete against each other, countries compete against each other for businesses to exist in their countries, and they use subsidies to do that. They use subsidies to do that. Oil companies can drill for oil anywhere in the world. They don't have to do it in the United States, you know. They don't have to. And you can go somewhere else and get subsidies somewhere else, right? Opening a business in northern New Hampshire that's not tourist related is hard to do. My town's largest employer is Santa's Village. That's awesome. I'd like to go to that town. I'd like to go see Santa's Village. Oil is 68.78. Do you see it going lower? I mean, I don't know how much lower it'll go. It's been trading in a range between about $67 and $74, $5 um, for the last year, right? So oil being at $68 is not anything new. It was this same price just weeks ago, right? Um, we're within the range that it's been trading in for the last year. And there's nothing significant happening fundamentally in the market, so we're just kind of experiencing market ebbs and flows right now, and we'll have to see if something happens to drive prices lower. But as of right now, there's nothing happening that would suggest that oil prices are going to be driven significantly lower than they are right now. That doesn't mean they won't drop a little bit more, but there's an equal chance they could be $70 tomorrow, right? So this is just the ebb and flow of the market. There was an inventory report that came out yesterday, and there was a drop in U.S. inventories, and they were expecting a build, but the drop wasn't significant. It was less than 1 million barrels. So everything's just kind of moving along like ho hum right now. There's nothing super significant happening to push prices either way. So we're just kind of riding the ebb and flow of the market right now. And one of the reasons I get a lot of the questions I get is because people read things, articles, about gas prices and oil prices, and from journalists that literally know nothing about it. And they'll use buzzwords to grab your attention, you know. You can take those with a grain of salt. These people write trying to explain why oil prices are where they are on a daily basis. They have to come up with something. Like they have to come up with something. Because you can't just say, well, this is just a market doing what it's doing. Like if oil goes up by a penny for 10 minutes, some journalists will pop out an article on the internet saying oil is up, and then they'll give some random reason that they've probably got a list of reasons, and they just pick one and plug it into an article. Don't ever read articles about oil and gas or gas prices. Like they are the worst thing you can read, because the people writing them know absolutely nothing about it. They have no knowledge, and they're looking for, just like content creators make content, journalists need to pump out articles and stick them up on the internet, right? Most of them are completely meaningless when they're talking about oil and gas. They don't mean anything. That's right, sarcastic sister. You come here for that information. Will Trump ending Chevron's licenses in Venezuela affect prices? I think it could. Yeah, yeah, I think it could. Um, Venezuela wasn't exporting a ton of oil. Um, and by affect prices, that can mean a lot of things, right, Jill? So that could mean, you know, if the market is softening, it could just simply slow down the softening. I don't necessarily mean that it'll or believe that it'll make oil prices rise, but we've been saying for a year that the market's going to be softer in 2025, right? This we've been talking about this for a year. In 2025, the market's going to be a little bit softer. The economy in China is not doing great. We're becoming more and more dependent on oil demand increase growth in India than China. Um, and so there's things happening in economies around the world that are kind of softening demand globally, and that will soften oil prices, right? That will create a softer market. And we've seen this coming for a while. Doesn't mean the market is crashing, right? It just means it's a little bit softer. So I think 400,000 barrels a day from Venezuela wouldn't have a huge impact on the global market when you're already in a sort of a soft market, right? So it may just blunt the softening. It may not even equal higher prices. It may just mean more stable prices. It may just mean more stable prices. So we'll have to see. How can the United States government control licensing in another country? Well, the thing is, you know, what that means is that Chevron can't sell oil to the United States from Venezuela. It doesn't mean that Chevron can't sell oil. It means they can't sell oil to the United States. That's what that means. The U.S. government can't prevent Chevron from producing oil in Venezuela and selling it to, Europe or, someone else. But they can prevent them from selling oil, bringing oil into the United States. You need a license to do that, right? You need a license to do that. And I haven't read about Trump doing away with their license, but if he did, that's the license they're talking about. They're not talking about their license to operate in the country. They're talking about their license to import oil into the United States. Yeah. Mr. Global, in another video, you said you don't listen to the news except for the news girl. Do you seek print publications like the Journal, Washington Post, Economist, etc.? Economists usually write in for these. I really don't. I really don't. No, Now I do look for news that can't be manipulated, right? So I'll go look for the price of oil, right? Now, technically that's news, but the price of oil just is what it is. And then I will determine why it is what it is. Things like that. To be completely honest, I'm not super interested in most of the news. I'm not a news junkie. A lot of people are news junkies and they just eat up news all day, and which is fine, except it rots your brain because most of what you're ingesting is just hyperbolic bullshit put out by journalists trying to get noticed. That's the reason I don't really watch the news. It really is. Because at the end of the day, most of the news that occurs, a lot of it doesn't matter. A lot of it doesn't mean a hill of beans. It really doesn't. We think a lot of things matter that don't. Well, sister, good luck with that. I wish you the best. I hope that works out for you. And listen, um, you know, no shame. Um, you know, if I could make $1 million sending pictures of my feet to someone, I would do it too. But that's not a thing. That's not going to happen. Nobody wants to see that. So. People would probably pay me to not send those pictures. Maybe that's how I need to approach that business model. Listen, you send me $10 and I won't send you feet pics. uh, yeah, Jill Pearson. When I get off here, I'm gonna dig into that Venezuela thing and try to figure out exactly what that is, because I know they need a license to sell oil to the United States. So um, I'm not I'm not saying it's not a thing, but I wasn't aware that Chevron would need a license from the United States to operate in Venezuela. Right? I would be, because that just makes no sense to me, and I've never heard of it. So I've heard of, you know, I'm familiar with the licenses I was talking about, permits and licenses. You need a license to export out of the United States. You need a license to import into the United States. Um, I don't really think you need a license to operate in another country, unless they're receiving some sort of tax benefit, and through that process, right? So, well, I'll have to check into that and see. So don't forget, tomorrow at 2 p.m. we're gonna have Robert Rapier on. Jill, how you feeling?
I'm okay.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
She lies to me.
I do not. I'm okay.
You don't sound okay.
Because I am actually sick. But I'm okay.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to shut it down. I got stuff to do. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, Robert Rapier. We're going to talk. If you're from Canada, you're going to want to hear what me and Robert talk about tomorrow. We're going to be talking a lot about this stuff, right? Robert Rapier, senior energy contributor of Forbes magazine, will be here. All right. Thanks everyone so much for your support and for joining and talking to us today. You guys have a good, what is today? Wednesday? Have a good Wednesday afternoon.
Thanks for the gifts. Bye.